Hey guys, Jason Wiseman coming to you here from Phoenix, Arizona. By now you've probably perused the Wiseman One website and are anxious to see how this all fits together in terms of the one-on-one. You know, there's all the bits and pieces are out there. Some of it we've borrowed from our friend James Schwartz over in Texas. And many of you have asked me to just do it in one shot with some continuity. So I'm going to share that with you today. You know, this shouldn't be an hour-long conversation. It should be 15, 20 minutes max. I'm just going to treat you as if I'm doing it directly for you. I'm going to throw in some comments as we go through. So whether it's a trainee that I'm with that introduces me and edifies me, or I'm sitting down with somebody one-on-one, pretty much I'm going to start exactly the same way. I think one of the keys to success in our business is to build consistency in what we do. It's served me very well over the past several years and will serve you the same, I'm sure, if you do that. So I'm just going to start as if, I'm sitting down with you one-on-one. So I'm going to thank you for a little bit of your time and agreeing to meet with me. And I'm just going to tell you, my whole purpose here today is not to say anything, not to ask you to join anything. There's really 4 basic outcomes that I'm looking for. One is when we're done, you may benefit from some of the services we provide. I'm going to let you speak up about that if you think you could take advantage. Second thing is you may or may not be looking to earn some extra money, change careers, whatever that might look like. Third thing is referrals for those 2 things. We're a rapidly growing financial services firm. There's huge demand for what we do, and we're looking for clients and for agents to train as well. And the fourth thing, of course, is just a no. We really believe that no is a perfectly acceptable answer. Okay, is that a deal? That's the only outcome we're looking for here today. So let me just start by saying this. It seems like about 91% or so of people that reach retirement age just kind of aren't in that great of shape. Oftentimes we joke about they get there broke, and it's just the way it is, and so we want to go help them. So, I don't care if somebody makes $1,000 a month or $10,000 a month. All it means to me is that they're probably just at a different level of broke. Like fish, if you stick a fish in a small bowl, it only gets so big. If you put it in a pond, it gets bigger. You stick it in a lake, it can get huge. Well, like the fish that grows to the size of its environment, we have a tendency to our spending to grow to the size of our income, right? So we understand that, and we want to help people maybe turn that situation around a little bit for themselves. So we really understand, I think, better than most people what their financial situation looks like. And so I'm just going to draw it out for you on a pie graph of what we see. Here's what we know. About half the money that they bring in, that people bring in general, goes right back out to pay for their living expenses. All the things it takes to keep the house running, if you want to think of it that way. You take the rest and divide it in half, and half of it goes to pay for tax, and the rest goes to pay for whatever debt that they've incurred, or pay the interest on the debt that they've incurred. Of course, real simple question is, there's one really important thing missing from that graph, isn't there, as far as where their money's going? And they usually respond with yes. And what is it that's missing? Yeah, I agree. It's their savings, right? There's not a lot of savings in there. So we're a little bit different than most firms. First of all, most firms, frankly, don't want to work with somebody who's in that situation. They want people who've already saved and have a nest egg and have a couple $100,000 to invest with them. But if they do happen to sit down with somebody, one of the first things they're going to do is they're going to say, hey, you've got all these living expenses. I'll just use me as an example. I have kids that play soccer, and they do a lot of other activities. And so it'd be real easy to look at my situation and say, hey, you're spending on average, say $400 a month on activities for your kids throughout the year. It's a lot of money. And if you're ever going to retire, you need to stop doing that and start saving it for yourself. Well, as sensible as that may sound, we all know this. When your son or daughter comes to you and they want to do something, play a sport, and I think sports are great, or whatever activities they're into, you might say no for a while, but the truth of the matter is if they've already been used to doing that, eventually they're going to do it again, because you're going to want them to do it. So where we like to separate ourselves from the pack is we want to take a little bit different approach with them. And one of the first things we want to do is we want to show them how they can legally lower their taxes. Now, taxes are just a deal killer for people all the way around. I've heard it, I read a lot about, investing and retiring and that kind of stuff. And, I've heard it been said that the two biggest threats to somebody's retirement plan is taxes and volatility. So anything we can do to mitigate taxation today along the way on the back end, we want to focus on that. The other thing we want to do is we want to educate them on the importance of getting out of debt. And I make it real simple. I say, hey, we got to go from high interest to low interest to eventually no interest, right? And our whole foundation for that is built on education. We've got to educate people. If you think about it, when you got your first paycheck, what did you do with it, and how did you decide what to do with it, and who influenced those decisions? Well, it was probably a friend, or you did whatever your parents did, or maybe you just didn't know what to do, so, hey, I worked hard for this money, I'm gonna go get a new pair of shoes, or whatever the case may be. So a little piece I'll just share with you that we like to educate people on is how compounding interest works. It's crazy important that they understand it. So one of the things we teach people is the rule of 72. Have you ever heard of the rule of 72? Most people will say no, and even if they don't say no, I just do it anyway, okay? So I said, yeah, the rule of 72 just says this. It says, hey, take 72, divide it by the amount of interest that you're earning on your money. It's going to tell you how many years it takes for that money to double. It's real simple, right? To be teaching this to grade schoolers these days. So if we have money sitting in a bank earning 1%, then that means our money doubles once every 72 years. I don't know about you, but I'm not going to live long enough to make that happen, right? I don't have enough life left in me for that. So, so watch what happens here, just to kind of help educate you on what we're trying to teach people when evaluating where they're putting their money. Let's just take a look at two different rates of return, 6 and 12%. Okay. So it's 6%. If the rule of 72 is true, then 6 goes into 72 about every 12 years, right? So once about every 12 years, our money is going to double. So if we just go out here to age 24, or year 1 through 24, if we put $1,000 away in an account that's going to yield 6% interest, then that means that year 12 it turns into $2,000, and in year 24 it grows to be $4,000. What happens if we double the interest rate? Okay, well, let's take a look at what happens if we double it. It means it's going to double every 6 years. So we've got year 1, year 6, year 12, year 18, and year 24. A whole bunch more doubles, isn't it? Watch what happens. Same $1,000 grows to be $2,000, grows to be $4,000, grows to be $8,000, grows to be $16,000. Same dollars, same time, just a different interest rate. I know you're probably thinking, where do you get 12%? Where do you get 6%? Look, I can't promise somebody they're going to get 0%, 6%, 12%, 20%, 15%. But doesn't it make sense that we educate them in a way that helps them understand how they can capture more of that kind of interest rate than 1%? And by the way, you might be surprised to know, you probably wouldn't even believe me if I told you, there are companies out there that get closer to this end of the spectrum if you have your money managed properly, with low volatility and the whole bit. I'm not saying that's a good fit for you or for anybody, but we just have to figure that out when we sit with them. So the flip side of that equation is this. It's been said there's two types of people that understand compounding interest. The person who doesn't understand it and pays it, and the person that does understand it and earns it. So this is where the light bulb comes on for most people when we start talking to them about their debt. Because if we look at their debt situation, they probably charged $1,000 on their credit card for clothes, for a vacation, whatever, right? The bank is charging them a pretty hefty percentage, aren't they? Anybody who's had a credit card knows it's in the teens for sure. Meanwhile, by the way, they pay you very little to leave your money sit there, but then they loan it back to you at a pretty high rate of return. That should light a fire underneath it right there in and of itself. But in any case, we make the minimum payment on the credit card like most people are doing, And the next month, the balance is the same, the next month, the balance is the same, it's the same, and it's the same. Well, here's what the bank knows. If you just continue down that road, which most people do, in little to no time at all, the bank's money has now doubled. They loaned you $1,000, they charge you 12, 18, 20% interest. A few years later, they've collected $1,000, you still owe it to them. So a big part of what we do is help people understand that and then give them some tools to help start chip away at that debt. Now I'll tell you, here in the Phoenix area, I usually find that we can help them free up somewhere between $300 and $500 a month, just going through our needs analysis and what we do for folks. Oftentimes that money, we got to take it and take some of the pressure off of what they're feeling on the have-to money, the living expense money. So once we do that, establish an emergency fund, these kinds of things, then what we get the privilege of doing is going out in the industry and looking at some companies, some big companies just like us, and I'm going to talk to you about our company in just a second, that have solutions. Companies that you've heard of, like ING, for example, or Prudential, right? We know the Orange Lion, what's your number? Prudential's the Rock. Nationwide is on your side, right? Fidelity, American Funds, so on and so forth. Host of private wealth management companies, so on, tons and tons of offerings that we have. The cool thing is, we don't care who the company is, frankly, as long as they're a good company. When they have the solution for that family and we help that family with whatever they provide, those companies pay us for the work that we do. See, we don't charge a sit-down fee to put a plan together for someone. Not a consultation fee, a plan design fee, nothing like that. We get paid from the providers that we use. Now, we just think that everybody would like to have a plan that helps them lower their taxes, makes their money work harder for them, and puts them on a path to financial independence. Wouldn't you agree with that? So let me ask you this question. Would it be worth 20 minutes of your time for us to sit down with you and see if we could do that for you? And by the way, if you have something going on that's working great, we're going to tell you it's working great. If we see room for improvement, we'll speak up and show you. So you would like to do that. Great. Let's get that scheduled. And I'm just going to take a little bit of time and try and schedule something with him right there. When I'm done with that, I'm going to say, okay, now let me talk to you about our company a little bit, because we want you to know who you're dealing with here. We are a big multinational organization. We fall under the Aegon umbrella. And you've probably never heard of Aegon before. It's a global company based out of the Netherlands, been around 160 years, $500+ billion in assets. 2011, Forbes ranked Aegon, as the 112th largest company in the world. So it's a big company. About 13, 14 years ago, they purchased the assets of Transamerica here in the U.S. It's kind of their North American brand name now is Transamerica. Transamerica's been around over 100 years. A big, strong provider of financial products here in the U.S. In fact, our company pays out Transamerica about $1.7 billion a day in long-term care benefits to people. So we're a big company. Now, we operate in a little section of that company called WFG, or World Financial Group, which I'm sure you've never heard of. And frankly, we're okay that you're not familiar with us. A lot of companies spend a ton of money branding and marketing and doing all these things to position themselves. We've just decided as a company that we're going to take those dollars and put it back into our agency, back into our business, back into different ways for us to go out and help people in the community instead. We're pretty large, about 26,000 licensed reps in North America, bigger than most of your property casualty companies, and we're growing fast and getting bigger all the time. So let me share another concept with you. I call it the four cornerstone concept. And I think if you could go back, me and you, in time and say, okay, let's forget about all the financial products that are on the marketplace, and let's just design a plan that was going to serve us on the short term and the long term. It might look something like this. But before I do that, let me ask you a question. Where are most people saving money for retirement right now? In their 401ks, right? So that's Internal Revenue Code Section 401k. This is where most people are putting their money for retirement. Would you agree? Okay. So let's forget about that for a minute. Let's just talk about some things that might be important to a plan. Okay, if we could just start all over. So what if I told you that there is also another section of the tax code, Internal Revenue Code, 7702A. You've probably never heard of that one, have you? Never heard of it. Some people that have heard of it are like your president, people with really, really deep pockets, senators, banks. They use their dollars to make them work the way that I'm about to describe to you. Remember I said if we could start all over and build a perfect plan, I think this is what it would look like. So the first cornerstone is it provides some protection. That's protection for you, protection for some taxation. If somebody dies too soon, the plan gets completed. If they live too long, well, they get some benefits from that as well. The other thing it does is it provides for a no loss provision. And what does that mean? Well, you lived through 2008, didn't you? You saw your portfolio take a nosedive. Well, what if you could put money in an account that prevented that from happening? In fact, had a guarantee that even if the market crashed, you didn't lose any money. Okay? Now, we can't be just like the bank and get all of that but not get a return, right? So, in these accounts, you also get market-like returns, meaning that you get to capture all of the market, in some cases up to 12, 13, 14%, and in some cases, there's no limit to the upside. You get a participation rate and you capture it all as it goes up, because you got to have that return for your money to grow. And then the last thing is tax advantages. Dollars you put in a 7702A plan grow tax deferred, and if we build it all properly, it all comes out tax-free to us. We're not going to pay any income tax on it. So there's a little piece of the code that most people haven't heard of that actually incentivizes us to save money that way. That's pretty cool. And that's a piece of what we do to help people lower their taxes and make their money work harder for them. Now, just one last thing and then we're almost done. I said to you, the second thing that would be a good referral, or maybe you yourself might be interested, is kind of what we do as a business and as an industry. So I just want to share with you a little bit about how we get paid for doing what we do. So give you some idea of what our compensation looks like, and somebody may come to mind. Okay, is that a deal? Great. So let's just pretend for a minute that somebody goes out and we're going to train them, we're going to provide an office, we're going to do everything for them to help them get moving on their feet, just like what was provided for me. But they go out and they help one family every week. And I'm going to use a little bit lower number than what the average is, but they help a family save about $200 a week in a plan that works this way. Okay? And they do that every week for a month. So they've helped 4 families. As a senior associate with our organization, now this is somebody who's been trained and they're on their own and they're doing what they're supposed to do, even part-time. Now I just tell people, hey, make a few contacts during the week, sit down and do these for 20 minutes a couple times a week. Go help a family on a Saturday, just one family a Saturday, and through that process you're going to help your own family terrifically. A senior associate with our company that goes out and does that is going to make somewhere between $3,000 and $4,000 a month in income. That's going to be their total revenue for helping that family. Now, what typically happens along the way is that people change jobs lots of times. They have old brokerage accounts, Roth IRAs, so on and so forth. And so through our needs analysis, we're going to ask all those questions, and we may find another $100,000 throughout the month that we're able to move and reposition and make those dollars work harder for that person. And we can do it, some of the things that we talked about here with those dollars, not everything, but some of the things, so no loss and so on and so forth. Every time they do that in a month, that's another $3,000 to $4,000 of income. So I fully expect a trained senior associate with our organization to make somewhere between $6,000 and $8,000 in a month. Not too bad for part-time income, right? So, I'll just go back to what I started with. There's really 4 things. If you remember what those 4 were. Could you yourself benefit from what we do, which we've already scheduled an appointment to come back and see it? Do you have a referral? Do you know anybody that could benefit from what we do? Second thing is what we just finished talking about, which is, career transition, part-time income. I started part-time, the company lets that happen. It's a great way to enter into a new professional career for somebody is on a part-time basis. Third thing is, again, a referral for either of those two, and then of course a no is a perfectly acceptable answer. But we've already got you set up to do your own needs analysis, and we're going to be happy to get back together with you and wrap that up. So that's it. That is my one-on-one, soup to nuts. My paper looks pretty much like that when I'm done. And I just encourage you, I did this a little bit fast, but it really only takes 15-20 minutes to get through it. You might have a couple questions along the way. I would just defer those until you have a chance to do the needs analysis with them. Watch this video over and over again. You can rewind it. You can go to a place if you're struggling, just kind of see what the transitions look like. And I hope this helps you get out and meet more people and have some confidence to go talk to folks and just feel good about what we do. There's a lot of opportunity out there, and I'm looking forward to watching you grow your business as we move forward. Thanks for your time.